Hi everybody, we're the Perez's. I'm
Hello.
Marcos.
I'm Heather.
And we are on this adoption page ready to adopt some happy kiddos to join our family. A little bit about ourselves. I'm born and raised in Houston, Texas.
I'm born and raised in Connecticut.
And we met in Houston, Texas. I'm Mexican American and...
Well, I guess my mom's side is Russian, my dad's side is English Irish, so kind of a mix, but many generations here in the States. So.
Yep, and right now we're actually living in Crestview, Florida. We came up here for my wife's job that she ended up accepting back in 2020, and we've been here ever since.
2019.
2019?
It's 2019.
Well, okay, so close enough, but we're here in Crestview, Florida, which is about 30 minutes away from Fort Walton Beach. We can drive to the beach and have fun and enjoy some of the seafood. I love crab cakes and the pretty water, and
We want to expand our family.
Yeah, we want to expand our
We
family.
want to share the wealth.
We want to enrich our lives.
We like to do a lot of really fun things. Even before I met Marcos, I traveled all over the world, and so once I met Marcos, we just started traveling all over. And then I've always been a theme park junkie, and then again, since we've gotten married, we go to the theme parks quite a bit. We're big kids, so I mean, it's the Disney villains. So why do we want to adopt? So I think a lot of that really has to do with we want to expand our family. It's hard to tell probably in a video, but we do have a lot of fun. We're both big kids, and I've always been around kids. I think when I was younger, I was very career oriented, and I sidetracked from children. I don't know that it was that I didn't want them when I was younger, but I was very career driven. But babysat when I was younger, very involved in my church, especially with the children at church. And it seems to come natural. I really love infants and children. And then, with him getting into the teaching career, and he's also worked in a daycare, so it's a good partnership because I'm really comfortable around babies and infants, and then once they start getting a little older, that's where his comfort level is, so we work really well as a team in that respect. But it really just seems to come natural, and I just love being around children, and we just want to share our love with the child.
And we're big kids, so they're going to feel right at home with us because we are out and about having all kinds of adventures, from theme parks to the beach to regular parks to toy stores to video games, everything.
Cartoons.
There is never a dull moment when we're with us. We are actually a Christian family, or consider ourselves a Christian family. I was born into Catholicism, and I stayed in Catholicism right up until I was going to make my confirmation. And then our family switched over to a non-denominational Christian church, and we have enjoyed it ever since.
I really wasn't born into religion. It wasn't a large part of my childhood. My mom's side was Jewish. My dad's side at the time was, I believe, Methodist, but neither was really practicing, going to church, going to synagogue. Everybody in my mother's family had married out of the faith, so they'd all married Christians or Catholics. And so I wasn't really raised with it. It wasn't really part of me growing up. But I always felt spiritual. And I would say later on in life, I had a few friends who kept encouraging me to go to church, and I was hesitant. My experiences with church hadn't been good up until then, but I really loved those friends, so I decided to go with them. And I loved it. I loved the church that I went to. I was very, very involved in that church. I was there at least 2 or 3 times a week. On Sundays, I was there for about 10 hours. I worked in the daycare there for when everybody else was going to church. So I would go to church in the morning. It was like a 7 o'clock service, and then stay all day through the 5 o'clock service and handle the infant and toddler rooms. So I'm born and raised in Connecticut, as most of my family they were as well. My dad was actually born in Maine, but when him and his brother were very young, my grandmother brought them to Connecticut because his father had unfortunately died unexpectedly when my dad was very, very little. So they moved to Connecticut. So he was pretty much raised there. And my mom's side of the family, actually the area that we're from, New London County, and specifically New London as a town, as a city, my family had a lot to do with the buildings and building up that city. So we've been there for since the 1900s, I think, early 1900s, I believe. So some of the buildings there actually have my mom's maiden name on it. So when I say I'm born and raised in southeastern Connecticut, my family's been there for a very, very long time, and most of them still are there. I have an older sister. She's about 7 years older than me. She also lives in Connecticut, is married, and has 2 children, both of whom are well over 20 now. One's in college and one's getting her doctorate. And like I said, my mom still lives there. My uncle still lives there. My dad is actually, my parents divorced when I was very young. My dad lives in South Florida with my stepmother. And I also have an aunt and cousins. They are all in the Atlanta area for the most part. And that's about most of my family, I think.
I was born, great state of Texas, Houston, Texas. My father's side of the family comes from San Antonio, while my mother's side is from Mexico mostly. I have a younger brother who's in his mid to late 30s, and a sister who's in her early to mid 20s at the moment. We met in Houston, and we were actually married in 2016, and we've been happily married ever since, living it up and enjoying life as much as we can. So here's the fun stuff, a little bit of what we love to do. First and foremost, we are both Halloween people. In fact, that's how we both kind of gravitated toward each other when we met. We eat, sleep, breathe Halloween and horror. And that ranges from everything to trick-or-treating, to horror movies, to going to theme parks like Universal Studios for Halloween Horror Nights, and Disney for Mickey's Boo Bash.
I think, and one of the things I think people get confused is when we say we love Halloween and horror movies, I think for me, being a theater person, I have always gravitated towards Halloween and horror because you can become a different person. You put on a costume and makeup, and you can completely transform. And that's one of the things that I really like about horror and Halloween is the creativity. I mean, truly, that's the amount of work that goes into Horror Nights and Boo Bash and all of that. And it's that just, I mean, it always excites me. It always lights me up. I've been going to Horror Nights long before I even met him, and I was actually worked at the first Horror Nights at the Universal Studios in California when I lived out there, and I was one of the characters out there. It's just again, it's theatrical, it's movies, it's the set design, it's the costumes, it's the makeup that looks completely real, but you know it's fake, but it looks very real. And I think that's where I think because we're both very creative, I think that's where a lot of that comes from.
Well, for me, a lot of it was just from childhood, just loving the idea of costume and of course candy. So that was big for me. In later years, I've enjoyed doing elaborate costumes, and to me, there's no extent that I won't go to try to have a visually impressive costume. And once I'm in it, I even like to stay in character. That's part of the theatrics that she was referring to, and also something that I'll get into a little bit later on about another interest that I enjoy. But I grew up as a child loving Halloween, and as she did, she'll tell you about one of her birthdays that she had that she loved as Halloween, and ultimately how that all culminated in 2016.
So there's pictures of me on my 7th birthday, I believe, and my birthday's in March, and I had a Halloween party. So when we invited all the kids from school to go, there's pictures of all of us in our Halloween costumes, which I think I remember hearing that a lot of the parents were happy that they got another use out of that costume that they had paid for all of those kids. But there's literally a picture of me. I think I'm dressed as a witch, and my mom made a Frankenstein cake as well. So there's pictures of that. But it's just always kind of been in me. And again, it's like the costumes and getting into character and all that. I've just really, really loved it, and it's a good escape. And I think, well, I know, having kids, being able to go trick-or-treating, we cannot wait.
And we've got a mother-in-law on standby that's ready to make costumes.
She makes
for
great
little
custom
ones.
costumes.
But 2016, that was the year we got married, and we ended up having a Haunted Mansion inspired wedding. So that tells you how deep the Halloween love goes. So another thing about, well, more partially having to do with me is I am a huge wrestling fan. I got into it when I was around 6 years old. My earliest memory of anything having to do with professional wrestling was seeing Andre the Giant on TV, as well as the Macho Man and Hulk Hogan. And from there, it just grew into the point where I've loved it. Whenever I'm down, professional wrestling brings me to my happy place. It's just a great nostalgic trip down memory lane. Just those characters that were larger than life. So much so that, I mean, it's been such a huge part of my life that I became a wrestling promoter for a small federation in Houston, Texas called the Immortal Wrestling Federation. And not only do I help run it, but I'm also a performer within the organization. Heather's also taken on a small part as well as also helping to establish connections for venues that we can perform at, and also giving me a better idea on how to run it more professionally. So on top of that, we also like to go to actually every now and then we'll go to see actually wrestling performances in person, whether it's like a local wrestling federation or whenever the World Wrestling Entertainment is in town, WWE. We've gone a couple of times to some of their big shows like the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, as well as the Hall of Fame and the fan access events. I like to say that we are a wrestling family right behind Halloween.
I'd put Halloween first.
And let's just see what our preferences are. I always say that any child that comes our way is eventually going to end up becoming a recruit into the Federation. We're always looking for new, young, able bodies to join and put the muscle on and get into the squared circle.
It'd be nice to have more girls in there. There's not as many girls.
Yeah, it's girls and boys, equal opportunity trainers here. Just looking to get someone to share in our passion and maybe increase the roster at some point later on down the line. But yeah, that's a little bit about what I love and what I bring to the table athletically.
So my whole life I've really been interested in travel. I've also always been interested in languages. And not to say that I'm fluent in anything, but I've learned bits and pieces of a lot of different languages. I love to be able to communicate and connect with other people. So prior to me meeting Marcos, I did the semester in Lugano, Switzerland, and then I was ahead in my credits at USC, so I was able to take just one or two classes. It was like 2 classes in Switzerland, and so I'd have classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'd travel somewhere within Switzerland on a Wednesday, and then did the long weekend somewhere else. So I was in Rome, I went to Venice. I'm also really into history. That's also a part of traveling. I think you become, I guess, a more open and diverse person when you're able to see other cultures and experience other cultures. And part of that is learning some of the history behind it. So with my mom's side of the family being Jewish, I stopped at Dachau, and I wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity to see places like that have some meaning, not just to my mom's side, but just to history in general and about how not to repeat mistakes. So there's that portion of travel, and then there's the fun part of travel. I like to experience new things. So I actually went to Rio, went there for Carnival. One of my friends happened to be living outside of Rio and invited me to go. We actually were in the parade. We were fully costumed. Only the girls that everybody knows about that are like half naked, they're the ones on floats. The ones that are in between are like fillers between the floats, but it was really fun. I was able to do that. I went to Thailand twice. I've been to Bali. I've been all over, and I'll never be able to get everywhere. And then when I met Marcos, he was kind of, he'd been in Houston, he hadn't been many other places, and so I immediately started wanting to kind of push him to venture out, even if it was more of a staycation. It was something like an hour or two away, because you're not always necessarily going to have the money or time to be able to go really far away. So I went to Dallas and took him to the dinosaur museum, and then
The Perot.
the Perot Museum, yep, and then Louisiana, different places in Louisiana, and then just since we've been here in Fort Walton, because of COVID, we weren't able to venture out as far as I would have liked, but we can do weekend vacations. Being in the hotel business, it's a benefit because I get employee rates pretty frequently. So we've gone up to Atlanta to see my family there, see some stuff that, like some shooting locations from The Walking Dead, to Tallahassee. We go to Orlando very frequently. I'm trying to think of some of the other spots, but then for our honeymoon, it had been a goal for me. I wanted to go to Fiji, and for cost reasons it was a bit too far, so we went to Tahiti, which was absolutely beautiful. Did not want to come back, would love to go again, but yeah, the goal is now that we're sort of getting, I guess, past COVID, is to be able to start venturing out more and traveling more again as a family. I certainly, having a child, I would want them to experience other cultures as well.
We've also done cruises, which are just chock full of activities for kids, and when we get a chance to get back to another cruise, hopefully we'll have a kiddo with us that we can take and would enjoy all those activities along with us.
And like I was saying, it's fun. For me, it's fun to see other cultures. It's fun to do, like we did tubing in a cave. You had to see like the bats. We had like flashlights and stuff. You could see the bats. For me, it's not only fun, but it's educational. It's really, the older I've gotten and the more I've gone out in this world, I think there's a huge benefit to being able to expose children to so many different cultures. It not only makes you more intelligent when you're able to do those travel, if you have that opportunity, but it's a good way to be able to connect with other people. So.
Dinosaurs! Yeah, I love dinosaurs, and we both do, and probably me more so than her, but that's another thing that we're looking forward to, bringing a kiddo to come and experience that with us, because whether it's watching Jurassic World or going to the Universal parks to get on the Jurassic World rides,
Natural history museums.
Yeah, museums, crazy about them. I particularly love marine reptiles, mosasaurs, plesiosaurs. I hope to one day go to, talking about traveling, hope to one day, would love to go to Scotland and go to Loch Ness in the hopes of seeing the Loch Ness Monster. But just love dinosaurs. I've always felt that that's a great way to get children interested in science, and just enriching the imagination of children. That love for those animals can just take them anywhere, whether it's just being more of a creative person, or becoming more interested in other aspects of science, like just animal biology. I don't consider myself the most science-driven person, but the little bit that I am into, I can credit towards having a love for dinosaurs at a young age. So
he can even give you the Latin names.
Yep, the Latin meanings of dinosaurs.
Yep.
But any child that comes into our home is gonna enjoy and be fascinated with any dino adventures we might have in store. So that's something to look forward to.
Then I've been able to watch him teach kids about dinosaurs. I've been lucky enough to see that, and again, we're big kids, so he makes it really interesting for any age, but specifically when he's with little ones.
Dino trivia.
Yeah, he's very animated and gets into character and gives them voices and stuff. It's pretty funny. So they're learning and having a good time at the same time.
Hey, but don't take our word for it. Just listen to these amazing testimonials. Hola, I am Mo, the mosasaur. My favorite things to do are eating fish and swimming. And if you come to stay with La Señora Perez Heather, or Señor Perez, Mr. Marcos, you and I could have a good time playing. So come on down to hang out with us. Gracias, angelitos.
Hey, I am your worst nightmare. I am Batman. And if you come hang out with me, you can join me and the Perez's in any one of my secret missions to take down the worst villains of Gotham. Hey, these guys are good people, so why don't you come on down and hang out with me, and we will have the greatest time ever.
Hi, I'm the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Don't you like me? Anywho, if you come on down and stay with me and the Perez's, we can have all kinds of tasty treats. As you can see, I know all about tasty treats. I mean, look at my mint section, for crying out loud. Anywho, I like to eat hamburgers, pizza, hot dogs, corn dogs, mini dogs, chili dogs, French fries, American fries, onion rings, fried green tomatoes, fried green broccoli, fried green bananas,
2 hours later.
peanuts, cashews, cereal, fried fish, shrimp salad, shrimp stew,
6 hours later.
shrimp creole, shrimp sandwich, shrimp burger. Anywho, that's about all the time I have for today. But if you come on down, we'll have a smashing good time. See you later. So that's going to wrap it up for us. We hope you found this video to be informative as well as entertaining, and you've had a good chuckle here or there at our expense. But we hope that you will consider us, and you found us to be a nice balance of fun and the type of people that would give a healthy and happy upbringing to a child.
Yeah. So, you know, we have a lot of life experience, and we really just want to share that with a child. And you know, we have a lot of love to give. We're both very affectionate people, and so we definitely have a lot of love to give. And we do stuff in a very creative way. So you're definitely, you know, a kid here is not going to be very bored. There's always going to be something fun to do. And we're both also very supportive of children as well, and who they want to be and who they want to grow up to be. So we're just looking forward to having that child in our life that that we can give back to.
So with all that said, once again, we are the Perez's. I am Marcus.
I'm Heather.
And we hope to hear from you very soon. Bye for now.